In this video, we will introduce a method to control the scanning rate of leaky-wave antenna, and meanwhile realize the linear beam sweeping in the operating band. Firstly, we assumed a guiding wave structure with linear dispersion curve. Then, we analyzed the scanning rate of this proposed model. We came to that conclusion that the scanning rate increases with the slope of the dispersion curve falls off. Secondly, we calculated the beam directions and scanning rates for different slopes of the linear dispersion curves. By comparison, we realized the beam scanning linearity of this ideal model can be improved by increasing the slope, which is opposite to the condition of high scanning rate. So, if we want to balance the high scanning rate and beam scanning linearity, we should choose a suitable slope of the linear dispersion curve. The next problem is how to realize the guiding wave structure with linear dispersion curve. Here, we introduced a periodically loaded structure with glide symmetric unit cell. By simulating the dispersion curves, we demonstrated the linear dispersion property of this unit cell with glide symmetry. To radiate the energy, we broke the side wall of the waveguide and employed several leaky pins to control the leaky rate, which resulted in the broken of glide symmetry. To alleviate the negative impact of the leaky pins, we copied the unit cell along the horizontal direction and proposed T30 mode as the guiding mode. In the meanwhile, double leaky pin structure is used to reduce this negative impact further. A T30 mode feeding network is designed using the method introduced in the reference. An all-metal prototype is fabricated and measured. By comparing the simulated and measured results of our proposed leaky-wave antenna, we demonstrated the ability of linear beam sweeping with high scanning rate. For more details, please read our published paper. Thanks for watching.
This research attempts to exploit the idea of amplitude modulation in classical communication theory for a paradigm shift in antenna design. Here we report amplitude-modulated leaky-wave antennas.
The idea of amplitude antenna in this work is inspired by the amplitude modulation technique from the classical communication theory. It's well known that for the M radio, we first have a K wave, and its amplitude is proportional to a baseband signal. Then the generated modulated wave is the M radio wave. Conventional M radio is operating in the time domain, while amplitude antenna is in the spatial domain. For the amplitude antenna, we first have an unmodulated slow K wave. Then we do the spatial Fourier transform. We can see that there is only one spatial frequency impulse outside the visible region, as shown in the gray color here. So the wave can only propagate along the waveguiding structure and cannot be radiated into free space. Then we introduce a baseband signal to modulate the K wave. This is the waveform of the modulated wave and its spatial frequency distribution. We can see that there are three frequency impulses here. It's possible that the loaded spatial frequency impulse can be flowed into the visible region, and the corresponding wave radiated into free space. In this manner, the M waveguiding structure can work as a high-gain leaky antenna. Here we use the corrugated guide or spoon SPB transmission line as an example to realize the M leaky antenna. We modulate the width of the metal block of the corrugated guide to realize the sinusoidal amplitude distribution along the transmission line. The result shows that a high directivity beam can be generated. In fact, the modulated signal is not necessary to be a sinusoidal wave. Here we also use the spoon SPB transmission line as an example to synthesize a flat top radiation pattern. This is the design modulated signal, the fabricated antenna prototype, and its measured radiation pattern at 30 GHz. This work was conducted at the State Laboratory of Terahertz and Millimeter Wave, City University of Hong Kong. For more details, please refer to our paper. Thank you for your watching.
In this video, we will introduce a method to control the radiation of leaky wave antenna along the end-fire direction over wide frequency band and meanwhile realize dual-polarized radiation with high channel isolation. We assume the periodically leaky wave antenna as an antenna array. That the radiation performance is determined by the product of the element factor and array factor, aiming at a wide band end-fire radiation. The effective element factor and array factor should have end-fire patterns among the working band. Here, double-sided slots are etched on both sides of the waveguide. Contrary to the traditional single-slot element with a typical broadside pattern, the proposed double-sided slot pair can realize end-fire radiation by choosing a proper distance h. By etching several periodic double-sided slot pairs on both sides of the waveguide covers, a slot leaky wave antenna can be formed. To actualize dual-polarized radiation, a square waveguide is adopted as the guiding structure to stimulate the desired orthogonally polarized fields by TE10 and TE01 modes. Next, we need to develop an array factor with wide-band end-fire radiation. Firstly, we analyze the relation between the propagation number beta and the array factor. An end-fire radiation pattern of the array factor can only be produced when the value of beta is close to that of K0, which is the propagation constant in free space. Secondly, we calculated the dispersion curves of the antenna unit cell based on the hollow square waveguide. It can be found that the value of beta is lower than that of K0. This indicates that the slot waveguide array based on such unit cells cannot realize an end-fire pattern. To overcome this problem, a periodically loaded waveguide core is proposed to provide efficient dispersion control. The unit cell used in the proposed waveguide with an inner core is shown in the inset of figure B. Obviously, the value of beta is greatly improved with the increase of the pin height HP. To validate this approach, the ideal array factors were calculated. Although the end-fire array factor can be produced using a periodically loaded slotted waveguide, this is still not suitable in the design of broadband end-fire leaky wave antennas. To address this narrowband issue, gradient pins loaded on the inner core are used, thus providing a new degree of freedom to control the dispersion. By calculating the array factors based on the ideal 1D model, the wideband end-fire radiation is testified. The full-wave simulation also demonstrates the above design with the end-fire performance from 7.8 to 8.8 GHz. To generate the desired waveguide modes, an orthomode transducer is proposed with high channel isolation. The schematics of the proposed dual-polarized end-fire leaky wave antenna are fabricated and measured. By comparing the simulated and measured results of our proposed leaky wave antenna, we demonstrated the ability of wide-band and dual-polarized end-fire radiation. For more details, please read our published paper. Thanks for watching.